Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
So now we're going to move on to our spoiler review of the week, which is My Rainey's Black Bottom. Jazmin, as again, you are our guest, so we're going to throw it over to you. What were your thoughts on My Rainey's Black Bottom?
You know, it was interesting because I knew it was an August Wilson play, right?
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, somewhere in the first 20 minutes of watching, I was like, are they just going to be in this room the entire time?
Yes!
And I felt bad. I was like, I can't say that. I can't say that about this. Like, what are you talking about, Jazmin? And then it hit me, well, if you were in a theater, this wouldn't feel like such a closed space, right? They would be all over the stage in this band room. So that was my first thought, right? Why are they in this room? When does this end? Is there another scene?
Where's Viola Davis? We're 20 minutes in already, right?
20 minutes in. Where is Viola? What is going on?
It is My Rainey's Black Bottom, right? It's not, it's not Levy's Black Bottom. Where is he?
Right? I'm really questioning, what is going on? So I'm happy to hear that I wasn't the only one. I thought it was phenomenal. I really did. I didn't know what to expect out of it. Viola always puts on an amazing performance. Obviously, this was a little sad going into it because of Chadwick and it being his final performance. The ending blew me away. I should have seen it coming, right?
Same.
You go to plays and you know that it's going to get you in the end. But I did not. I totally jumped off the couch no. And then I had to think to myself, Jazmin, why are you doing this? How in the world but I mean, that's good movie making that it elicited that response. There were definitely things that I took from it, Viola Davis as Ma Rainey is this woman that you are that's who I need to be. I need to be like her in life and demand a Coke just because I demanded it.
Yes.
Just because.
That's
there
right.
is no reason behind it. It's just, I said this is what I wanted and you agreed to it, so where is it? And I will wait for as long as I have to. Most of us, and speaking from a woman's perspective, are not like that. We're accommodating and we want to just make things easy and make things smooth, and that is not what I saw. So I really liked it.
Okay. Ernesto, what were your first initial thoughts?
Same. I thought it was absolutely incredible, and it not even, there was some of it going I guess just being sad, just knowing that it's Boseman's last performance. But I feel like that's not, sometimes you see stuff like that and that becomes the shadow over the film. But I felt like this movie is so good on so many different levels. That's just something that happened. You know what I mean? It is sad, but it doesn't take away from what I'm trying to say is it doesn't really take away from the film or even add anything extra. Well, I guess it does add a little bit extra, because you see it these are his final words. But I didn't know that Boseman can sing, so that was a nice bonus. When he started singing down there, I thought that was great. And then actually, Matt, you recommended the documentary that kind of coincides with the film as well. And the composer said, he was talking to Boseman that, he wanted to learn the trumpet fingers because that's just how dedicated he was to his roles. And ensuring that he got it right for the camera and like just to make sure it has that added authenticity. So I think it's just an honor. It was an honor to hear that about him, you know, to know that he was so committed to his roles. I think the Levy character was absolutely incredible. Like the character itself being written was incredible, and I think Boseman just gave it that extra added bonus. You know, he's telling a story about how his mom was brutally raped and how they had to sell their land, and you know, when he blew up on them for saying that he was catering to that white guy, like you totally understand. Like after he told the story, I was like, okay, I get why you acted the way you did. You're right. We're just gonna leave you alone about the white man. Like whatever you say is fine. Like I get it, and I think kind of going back to you, Jazmin, like that should have been the signal about the ending, because it's like you didn't need. Like you saw the instability, and then, you know, he had just lost his job, and then you take that moment combined with him already having some sort of instability, like of that outward of rage, like it should have been a clear sign. But you're right. Like as soon as it happened, like I'm not gonna lie, I was watching it on my phone and I was feeding the baby breakfast, and and like literally we're at the breakfast table and I go, oh my god, like I literally jumped at the table, and they're like. My son was like, "What, Daddy?" I was like, "This movie's." I was like, "This movie's just really crazy." Like to me, and stuff like that usually doesn't get me, because I feel like, you know, after you watch so much content, like you feel like, okay, this is gonna happen, and I actually didn't know until watching the documentary that this was an Owen Wilson play, and I would say this is better than. Have you seen Fences?
Yeah,
Matt, I know if you've seen it. Fences was great. But I feel like this is 10 times better than Fences. Like, I don't know. This, just the content, the delivery, I feel like it was just better. And like it didn't bother me. I actually liked it, the fact that it was centralized just in those two rooms, because I felt like then you don't have to pay attention to the scenery as much. Then it is all about the dialogue and what's happening in the scene and what the characters bring to the scene. And Viola Davis's costume and makeup, absolutely incredible. She had to wear, you know, she asked for there to be a fat suit, you know, to give her the extra weight. And, you know, they were saying Viola was saying in one of the pictures that her makeup always looked like grease paint. So that's what she did. They did her makeup and they put a little bit of grease paint on her afterwards, just because they wanted that added authenticity that they brought to the role. Matt, I think that's about it. I mean, I overall, I love the film. Like, I thought everything that happened was crazy. Like, you know, what Viola brought to the role was incredible. They kind of showing how ruthless the music industry can be, and you know that like at the very end, like, you know, he tells Levy that he doesn't want his songs, and then he literally takes his song and gives it to another band, like literally the same song. Mm-hmm. So it's just it was crazy. I enjoyed it. I actually think I would rewatch it, and I'm not one to rewatch films like this, but I think it deserves like another run through just to see what I missed.
Yeah, and so I also really liked the film. What's funny, because one of the first notes I wrote on here, like on my notes, was this feels like a play. Little did I know that as we were going through the movie, I'm like, wow, okay, so like Jazmin, like you were saying, okay, so we're really spending a lot of time in this room. I'm going to assume that we're going to be here for another 40 minutes or so, because that's what it felt like. And then when I finally see Viola Davis, I'm like, there you are. Yes, this is your movie. Take charge. And so, and then when we were kind of bouncing between two rooms, and one of my first thoughts were, this feels like Fences. Yes. And it wasn't until after the movie was over where, like, yes, Matt, it does feel like Fences, because it was written by August Wilson. And so, like, oh yeah, this makes complete sense. Not only is it produced by Denzel, it's the same script, it's the same feel. Like, yeah, all right. So what you were feeling, Matt, is correct, because it's exactly what this is. But it took me until the end of the movie, like literally reading the credits, to realize that this was all taking place, and I just didn't know about it, because I thought I was walking in to a different movie. I thought we were like focusing on, you know, her life, but not centralizing on a specific moment in her life, as well as the band's life, mind you. But yeah, I mean, talk about Viola Davis kind of like taking charge. She owned the room. She owned the car. She owned every second that she was on screen.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that part for me is so good to have on TV right now, have on Netflix right now, for people to see a Black woman who is unapologetic about who she is. Obviously, there's this relationship that's happening with Dusty May, and she's like, I dare anybody to talk to me about it. Like, I don't want to talk about it at all. You know, our age difference or the fact that we're two members of the same sex, like, and so what? What are you gonna do about it? Nothing. Right. And also, don't look at her either,
yeah.
or I'll fire you.
Yeah.
You know.
And
like.
Go ahead, Jazmin.
I think that's something that, like, that amount of power and strength is definitely not what I can say in my own experience I've seen of Black women portrayed on TV. So that was just phenomenal to watch in general, you know, like commanding the room or even that interaction with the police officer. Like, those are very real emotions and experiences that Black people have faced over time. We're talking about 1920 Chicago, you know, okay, we're going to get off this train and we've got our instruments. So we have proof of like why we need to be here, and let's just make our way to this recording studio. Don't stop. Don't look anybody in the eye. Excuse me, make our way, right? Like, don't get in any trouble is what I felt from these grown adult men, right? They're not, or even just think about it. The owners of the recording studio are like, you know, just practice, boys. They're not boys. They are adult men, right? Yeah. Oh, just get to work, boys. And they very much go through life feeling like a boy, right? Like, I've got my head down as I'm walking down the street. Don't get in any trouble, right? Like, that's kind of how like a 10-year-old or 11-year-old kind of walks through life, right? Don't get in any trouble. Don't look at anybody. Just get to where I need to go. And I think that, again, is just opening up a space for people to see what the Black experience has been outside of, you know, the triumph of sports and music and entertainment and culture, which is clearly a part of Black history. But this struggle that has always been there in the smallest of ways.
And, you know, to even, you know, piggyback off of that, there was a line in there that Rainey said, and I wrote it down because I think for me, that's when I really understood, like, her persona, her character, the reason why she is who she is. And she said, all they want is my voice, and they're going to treat me the way I want to be treated, no matter how hard it hurts them, because I know what they want. And if I just give it to them, then I'm giving you all that I have to give you the only thing that I have to kind of fit into this society. And once you have that, you no longer need me. And so the fact that she is basically, you know, being loud and brash and like everything, like who she is, and people are getting annoyed with her, it's just like, this is what it costs to get what you want, because I know once you get it, that you know, you no longer need me. And once she explained that, I understood, you know, kind of like her you know, very loud persona when she, you know, when we got introduced with her. And even like the whole reason of the Coke scene, she's like, oh wait, I don't have my Coke. We can't do any of this. I said in my contract, I said we needed a Coke. I want that Coke. I don't care how long it takes for you. Here's the money. I'll pay for my own damn Coke, whatever. Take, you know, and we'll delay everything when it was already delayed. And even also to the same point where what was the little boy's name? Sylvester, yeah.
Sylvester. Oh.
Yeah. And he was like, she's like, he's going to say the intro. And then, you know, I think his name was Irvin, like the manager. Yeah. He was like, we don't need that. And like, we need it, and he's going to do it. And then even her own band was like, we don't really need him. He stutters. I'm like, I don't care. He's going to get it right eventually. He needs to learn how to do this. And I'm deciding to use that life lesson right now because this is my time. And I completely understood that. So, like, to me, that was a turning point for the movie of, like, really you know, appreciating, like, you know, and even, like, it's kind of a life lesson. Like, whatever you're worth, make sure, like, don't just throw that away. Like,
Correct.
it's like, people need to appreciate what you're putting out. And so I even said, it was somewhere in the behind the scenes where she said, like, some people don't understand how hard it is to give you what My Rainey gave to people, like how hard it was to sing those lyrics in the way that she was singing it and give you all of that energy to give you the song that you want. It takes a lot out of a person. And so for me to just, follow your orders and get paid and that's it, that's not good enough. We need to more or less cause a scene or make sure it's done 100% to my satisfaction before, I just let you have the product. And there, you even saw some moments in there where she kind of gave in, especially at the end where he's like, hey, we need your signature. And she's like, just send it to me. And because she wanted that to be prolonged. And he was like, you're right here. Come on. Like, just sign it. But she knew if she signed it, that was the last thing they needed. That you're done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the documentary, they did a really good example of, like, explaining the struggles, because, like, in order to get ahead, especially, and I guess they were saying, like, the being black in America, in order to get ahead, especially being musicians, you needed to take those chances and take those risks in order to be successful. But when you do that, it felt like you're losing part of yourself, because that's all they wanted. So I thought that was a well-around, appreciation. And we saw My Rainey's point of view, and then the other side of it, we saw Chadwick Boseman's Levy's point of view of how we can see it kind of go on the dark side of it all. Like, My Rainey's the somewhat successful version of that story, being very demanding, and you have Levy trying to kind of ride up that tail horse and, like, using My Rainey as, like, okay, well, if she can do it, I can do it. But when the studio, for whatever reason, decides that you're not what we want, we like the music and we're going to use it, as we saw at the end, which was a very powerful message of the whole theme of this movie. And you saw, talking about when he stabbed Toledo. Yeah, I was shocked, because that he was on the edge, and earlier in the movie you saw him kind of attacking Cutler, but you didn't think
religion and all that. That was another really crazy intense scene.
It was that prayer.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, him, you almost felt like, oh, he's just doing that to intimidate them, but he wasn't actually going to kill anybody. But when, like Ernesto said, when you reach someone at their breaking point, they're going to do crazy things. And then the movie left it there. Like, we don't know what happens after that.
Right.
And so
unanswered questions.
And I think that was the point, obviously, because you can also, in that moment, you can tell whatever he was working toward, whether he can try to rebuild on that moment that he didn't get, is gone now, because now someone is dead, and he's probably going to be going to jail, I'm assuming, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there was an incredible amount, I would agree with Ernesto, of, like, foreshadowing. Like, something is going to happen here. I did rewatch a little bit of it last night and into this morning when I wasn't falling asleep. Let's be real here. And I remember sitting there and I thought, wow, how unstable is this young man, right? Every little jab drives him to, like, almost to his breaking point, right? Like, you're only going to call me a fool so many times, right? And he's saying to the rest of the band, like, don't mess with me. And all of a sudden it rises. I mean, at the point where you're pulling out a knife and you're like, tell your God to save you right now. Right. And I truly thought that was going to be the moment. Right. Like, no, he is going to cut him. like this is going to end with someone getting cut in this room. And so I think it was a really good way to show, just like, as a Black person, I think, speaking from my own experience, you're typically growing up in a household where religion is just a part of your upbringing. There is no question of, is God real, or do we believe in Jesus? No, like, most of us, it's just like, this is what it is. And I think Levy's character shows you that there are holes in that in that teaching, right? There are people who have lived a life that doesn't seem blessed. There's people who've lived a life where they're like, God has never been here for us, right? And like, it's very valid for them. Once he starts explaining this situation with his mom and someone raping his mom, and she's calling out to God and it doesn't stop, right? How can you tell this person that God exists then? He didn't help me in that moment, right? And I think that that's for a lot of Black people, there isn't a space where they could actually express why. Now I have questions about God and religion and what I'm supposed to believe based on what I've experienced. And this play opens up that space where people can begin to think about how they feel about God and what their image of God is and that sort of thing. I was like, that was very, it was done really well. And I think it's a conversation that our generation is having that back then. I don't think a lot of people were, because they didn't feel comfortable doing so. But yeah, I felt bad for him at the end. It was almost like a child crying out for help in those last couple of scenes, where he's just like, I didn't mean to do this, but I'm so frustrated with my life. Like, even remember he walks into the band room, and at one point he goes over to the door and he's trying to open the door.
Yeah.
And it's like, there are so many doors in his life that he can't walk through, right? Like, I want to be an artist, but I'm stuck with these people who are kind of like, I just play whatever I'm told to play. And he's like, come on, we got to be better than that, right? Or I want to shine, so I walk out into the center of the stage and I play. And Ma is like, excuse me? Like, what are you doing? Hello, Or I think like my arrangement is the arrangement we're going to use. Not, okay, well, at least I'll sell some music. Okay, $5, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, there's a block. And I could see how a person could be that frustrated by all those things, but obviously not to the point of killing someone. I just was like, oh, man, you have so much potential, and yeah, it's gone and wasted.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the door, because again, in that that behind the scenes documentary that is available on Netflix, if you guys want to check that out, the director was talking about the door, and basically exactly what you were saying, Jazmin, was that in life there are many doors you can open, but once you finally open that door, it leads to nowhere, which we saw in that scene. Like, it was just a brick wall. And so, he was kind of punching down this frustration, and it was like a thing that was happening throughout the movie. He goes over, he's like, I don't know what he was expecting on the other side of the door, and neither was I. Like, I was also very interested of what was on the other side of the door, like what was supposed to be there. And aside from just being, a prop to use while you're in the room, it didn't really serve much of a purpose to the story until it actually happens, and you're like, oh yeah, it just, all your hopes and dreams, whatever you wanted, when you finally get there, it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be. Here's this brick wall literally stopping you, and another hurdle for you to get to. Even just like a visual scene, and props to the cinematography as he opens the door and he looks at it, and then he looks up, almost looking up of like, either here's where I need to jump this entire wall to get to the dreams, or is just on the other side of this. But it's not the way that I kind of want to go down. So I thought visually, showcasing that scene was really well done, and also amplified by Chadwick's performance of kind of really, and even in this whole movie, like, you felt for him. You either, you almost at one point you wanted him to get the girl because of like, my Rainey's attitude toward her, and like, he'll be good. Like, you almost believe Levy's story. It's like, oh, well, if my Rainey can do it, all you need to do is sell a song, and they were already like enjoying his version better anyway. So why wouldn't they like his other songs that he wrote as well? And you were kind of rooting for him. It's like, yeah, no, he's like a kid, he's buying new shoes. He's, a little bit impatient, and that's the whole point. And then here's all your dreams being crushed. It's a very human story with everybody. And, you can get the surface level of each character, but they also, even the rest of the members of the band, they kind of talked about, they all had their moment to shine. They all had like their long story they were going to tell within the series or within the movie. And I thought all of that was executed very well. Ernesto, as far as Oscar talk is concerned, without knowing the rest of the contenders, but a lot of people are talking about Chadwick Boseman, getting this award, the supporting actor award, which I think he should not be nominated for supporting actor. He was a lead in this movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
Because
you kind of follow him and Viola, like they each have their own arcs within the film.
Yeah. And so like where do you feel like, is this for you like definitely in the conversation of?
Oh, absolutely. Like without question, like Viola definitely, Chadwick, and honestly for costume and makeup, like I think they should be in there as well. Like there's so much that little tidbit and the detail they put in there, how like you can tell how much it added to the film.
Jazmin, where are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree. Like the vulnerability, the level of dedication, learning the trumpet fingers, all those different things, like that is who he is as an actor. Like I am going to get into this. I am going to become this person for the time being. And you see it. I mean, when he's crying, it's like those are real tears that he's conjured up from a place of like, I am Levy. I am this man from Mississippi who's lost so much, and I believe that I can make it, and I'm fighting every chance I can get to make it there. I think that there are a lot of great actors who can read lines and, they can make you feel a couple of emotions, right? But just a couple. He can do it all. He can make you smile. He can make you laugh. He'll make you cry. It's sad that he's gone, but yes, I think he definitely deserves. And again, the costume and makeup was on point. Everyone, like you were like, oh, we're in the 1920s, like for real.
Yeah.
For real.
And even the set design too. I mean, it was only two or three locations, but it still kind of got you into that world for sure.
Yeah.
I kind of want to, and I definitely agree with both of what you guys said, but I kind of want to give it, hopefully it gets nominated for adapted screenplay, because this was a dialogue heavy movie. This was a character driven movie. This was like an actor's movie. Like they gave out range. So I think, hopefully it does get nominated for adapted screenplay, because I think it was definitely like the message definitely came across very well, and it was done very well. So
could you see it for Best Picture?
That's the one. That's the only one where I'm like, I don't know.
Really? See, because I feel like because when you think Best Picture, you think like the whole package, like everything, all like cinematography, everything's on point. Like I feel like it's there to at least get a nomination, at the very least. If it doesn't win an Oscar, it definitely at least deserves to be nominated.
I can definitely see the Oscar Best Picture nom. I think this is like one of those questions where I need to see what else is available for me to give you.
What else is it up against?
Yeah, and like you can try to guess. Oh my God, I completely forgot about this one movie. I'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't write it down, and I was like, oh wait a minute, this is kind of important. But yeah, I would definitely want to see the rest of it that it's up against. And with that, I did see a movie. It was an online screening, another one of those free online screenings, Ernesto, of Promising Young Woman, where I don't want to give too much away, but it was basically a woman is kind of out on revenge on other men because of an event that happened that she was kind of related to.
Okay.
But it was told in a very entertaining way, and the actress, her name is, I think it's Carey Mulligan or Milligan. She was phenomenal, and that is getting a lot of award buzz right now. So I was very happy to see that. So Promising Young Woman, just added to another movie that I've been hearing that can be up for Oscar contenders. So again, I don't need to see the list of players kind of involved, but and Promising Young Woman is available to rent, and I do recommend people watching it because that ending was nuts. But but yeah, with Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, it's Oscar worthy all over the place. So I definitely, I think we'll definitely. This is not the last time we're going to be talking about this movie. That's for sure. When we start talking about the award season, that's coming up very shortly. So yeah, any last words before we move on from either one of you?
I'm good. I think it's great. Everybody, I think you need to go see it. Like, you just need to hop on Netflix, and it's definitely worth the watch. And I will say I would have liked to seen. I know it's a Netflix film, but this would be a nice film to see in the theater, to just be fully engulfed.
Yeah.
Since it is originally a play, like, I felt like that would be, if you were to see it in the theaters, maybe you can even get an even deeper understanding. Like, maybe you can get deeper into the story when you remove all the other distractions of the world. Like, I feel like it deserves that.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially now, because I know when the Oscars have been pushed back to April, so maybe we might be in a different, position where theaters might be more comfortable in April. But typically around the Oscar time, they bring all these movies back into the theater so people can watch them. So maybe we might be, hopefully that might be an option, so people do have the ability to watch it in the theater coming soon. So that's our spoiler review on Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. It is available on Netflix if you hadn't watched it and you started to listen to this. Hey, thanks for listening to this edited version of our weekly podcast, Box Office Bingers. If you want to hear the full version of all of our episodes, which includes us discussing entertainment news, movie and TV reviews, guest interviews, and other things we've been watching, you can find us on wherever you listen to podcasts.
And if you want more from us, be sure to hit that subscribe button and find us on our social media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, Facebook at boxofficebingers, email at boxofficebingers@gmail.com, and Matt, we're even on the TikTokies. We're on the TikTokies at Box Office Bingers. Once again, thanks for listening.